Okay, let's set the scene. It's October 2025, and Google just dropped an update for its AI coding agent, Jules. Now, at first glance, you might think, oh, just another routine patch. But no, this was different. This was a revolution hiding in plain sight. It was the moment a simple code assistant really started its journey to becoming a true developer agent. So let's dig into what that actually means.
So let's have a real talk for a second. Think about the AI you're using right now. Is it, just a really fancy autocomplete? Is it sitting there passively just suggesting code? Or is it an active participant in how you actually build stuff? That's the big question this Jules update really puts front and center.
And yeah, Google's answer, it's crystal clear. The whole point of this October update was to completely redefine what Jules is. We're talking about a shift from a tool you just ask for help to an agent that you actually deploy right into your workflow, right into your dev lifecycle.
And to really get how massive this leap was, you got to look at the timeline. So Jules starts out as this internal Google experiment, right? Then it goes public in August 2025, already powerful with Gemini 2.5 Pro under the hood. But then, and get this, just 2 months later, in October, everything changes. The speed of that evolution, that's a story all on its own.
All right, so the first piece of this puzzle is all about meeting developers where we live, the command line. By dropping a Jules CLI, Google wasn't just tacking on another feature. No, they were plugging AI directly into a developer's home turf. And let me tell you, that is an absolute game changer.
What this new CLI does is unlock a whole new AI-powered way of working. Just look at this flow. You can literally type Jules plan to map out a feature, then Jules fix tests to, fix the tests. Then you can tell it to write the commit and actually commit the code with Jules commit. And finally, you guessed it, Jules deploy. All of that, just a few simple commands right from the terminal. Wild.
So what this all boils down to is that Jules becomes this AI-powered teammate that just lives inside your shell. You're not just asking for a snippet of code anymore. You're delegating real tasks. You can watch what it's doing in real time. You can chain its commands with stuff you already use like Git and Docker, and you can automate all that boring grunt work. This is what deep native integration actually looks like.
Okay, so if the CLI was about integrating Jules with you, the developer, the API is about integrating Jules with your entire development system. And this is where things go from, wow, that's cool, to, okay, this is actually groundbreaking.
Because with an API, the potential for automation just explodes. I mean, think about it. A new Jira ticket comes in, and boom, Jules automatically starts drafting a patch. Or someone on your team asks a question in the Slack channel, and bam, Jules pops in with the perfect code snippet. The API lets you wire Jules into pretty much every tool your team uses every single day.
But of course, for any of this automation to be useful in the real world, it has to be secure, right? You can't just have API keys floating around. And that's exactly why the support for environment variables is so critical. It means Jules can actually do real work, like run tests against a staging database or use third-party API keys, all without you ever having to hard code or expose sensitive secrets. It's a must-have.
This deeper integration also means you get way more precision. We're moving away from these kind of vague, high-level commands. Now you can give it hyper-specific instructions. Like Jules, fix this specific file and update this specific test. You get this really fine-grained control over exactly what the AI is doing in your codebase.
So on top of the CLI and the API, the October update also made Jules a whole lot smarter. They introduced this thing called repository memory. And the whole idea is to make the AI feel like it's been custom built for your specific project.
And believe me, the difference this makes is like night and day. Before, every time you talked to Jules, it was a blank slate. It was like it had amnesia. But now it remembers. It starts to learn your project's specific coding style. It adapts when you give it feedback, and it starts to recognize the unique patterns in your own codebase. It's an AI that actually gets to know your project over time.
But here's where it gets maybe a little futuristic. Probably the wildest part of this update is how Jules started reviewing its own code. Yeah, you heard that right. This is all thanks to an internal system they call the critic agent, which is basically an automated QA check built right into the AI.
So this internal feedback loop is pretty incredible. Here's how it works. First, Jules writes the initial chunk of code. But, and this is the key part, before a human ever lays eyes on it, this critic agent scans it for logic errors, style problems, potential bugs, you name it. Then, Jules takes that internal feedback and refines the code itself. So what you get is basically a pull request that's already had its first round of code review done by another AI.
So, when you step back and look at all these pieces together, you've got the CLI, the API, the repository memory, and this self-correction thing. One single, clear goal snaps into focus: deep, seamless integration right into the developer's world.
And look, this isn't just some theory on a slide. Jules is now literally living inside your tools. It can be set up to watch for GitHub issues with a certain label like Jules and just start working on them. It can kick off builds in your CI/CD pipeline all by itself. Jules isn't a website you go to anymore. It's become this ambient service that's just always there, always on.
So when you put it all together, the conclusion is impossible to ignore. That October 2025 update fundamentally rewired the relationship between a developer and their AI. Jules went from being a simple helper, a glorified autocomplete, to being an active, autonomous agent, a genuine member of the team.
Which brings us to the big final question, the one we all have to think about. With this kind of power and this much autonomy, would you trust an AI like Jules to run tasks directly inside your repo, to kick off jobs in your CI pipeline? That's the conversation this update forced us all to start having. And honestly, it's a conversation that's probably not going to end anytime soon.